I'm Kenneth Kinney, and thank you for joining us on another episode of An Education That Works, where every week Victory University profiles leaders in our community who've gone on to achieve phenomenal success in their careers after earning a college degree. Well, today's guest has a very storied career, and he's done a remarkable amount for our community. Mr. Allie Prescott was a college athlete who was drafted to play baseball in the pros. Then he took his education and became an attorney. He later became the general manager of the Memphis Chicks, and then later the general manager and president of the Memphis Redbirds. He also was the executive director of MIFA. He started a company, a consulting firm that helps nonprofits, and now he's even a senior advisor for a wealth management firm. He's part of the big reason why we have AutoZone Park downtown and the success that it's brought to that area. So join me with Mr. Prescott today to get some of his secrets to success on Victory University's An Education That Works. Thank you for joining us on another episode of An Education That Works. I'm here with a real leader in our community, Allie Prescott. Allie, thank you again for being on the show.
My pleasure.
If you will, tell us in the audience a little bit about your own educational background and where you got from your college degree to where you are today.
Oh, it's a long story for a 66-year-old guy, sure. Kenneth. I'm a lifelong Memphian. I grew up in the Berkeley section of town, went to quickly Berkeley Elementary, Kingsbury, junior high school and high school. Then I signed the baseball scholarship at then Memphis State University, and I went to Memphis State 65 to 69 playing baseball. And then I went to the law school at Memphis State University, and I paid my way through by being the graduate assistant baseball coach. So I graduated from law school in 1972. I practiced law for 7 years, and then I was honored to be asked to be the general manager of our minor league baseball team. I did that from 79 to 82. And I went back to practice law for a couple of years, and then I was the executive director of the Memphis Park Commission for 4 years, and then I was the executive director of MIFA, the Metropolitan Interfaith Association, for 8 years. Then I circled back to baseball, and I was the president and general manager of the Memphis Redbirds for 7 years. And then I retired after the 2001 season. We had already built AutoZone Park, and my wife and I formed a consulting firm, Allie Prescott and Partners, and we've been mostly representing not-for-profits for the past 10 years. And then for the past 7 years, I've been here as senior advisor with David Waddell at Waddell & Associates, just trying to introduce him to friends of mine.
Sure. Well, when you look back on your college degree, I mean, obviously getting your bachelor's helped you move towards law school and
Absolutely.
getting your law degree. But how do you think it helped propel you to go back into work into baseball? Because for a lot of people, they don't know what to do once they've gotten their degree. I mean, you've done a good job of marrying not only being a lawyer and a former athlete. I mean, you were also a college referee at one time.
Yes, I
refereed
basketball in the Southeastern Conference for 17 years and had the privilege of refereeing in the NCAA tournament 6 different times.
Well, it's another great example of somebody who's been able to pool all of their lifelong experiences together to help move them forward in their career. But how do you, when you look back on your own, educational background and a law degree, how did that move you towards that next step in your career?
Well, the educational background certainly moved me. I would say my sweet dad, who's been dead for 12 years, he always preached to me the old adage that if you really find something you love, it's not really work.
Right.
And so I was always, although you've kind of heard a career of different kinds of jobs, I've loved each and every one of them. Mm-hmm. But the educational background, I know that's what we're here talking about really. I think a law degree, Kenneth, prepares you for just about anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I practiced law with my law degree, but I left the day-to-day practice of law effectively 30 years ago, and I believe I used my legal education every day in my work life. People ask me about going to law school, but they're not sure they want to practice law, and I highly recommend a legal education because it just teaches you how to think. They call it the Socratic method, but it teaches you how to think, and it teaches you how to reason, it teaches you how to make deductions from various kinds of facts. But also, my undergraduate degree was a liberal arts degree. I was a history and a psychology double major, and so I'm very grateful to have had the 7 years of undergraduate and law school. It kind of set me on course for my career for sure.
Well, when you talk to people today, young people that are looking for advice, your own daughter doesn't have children, and no grandkids yet,
Right.
But they'll come that time.
We certainly hope so.
And absolutely, and you've given that advice as well to them, to your own children, when they were considering colleges. What kind of advice do you give people as to what kind of degrees to consider? Because and a lot of times people think a history degree is not going to get you that far, but there's many examples of that, of where a lot of that is that's just a starting point. It's
Right.
not something that just puts you in a box to where you can't get out of it.
That's exactly right, and I do think, I'm as I say, 66 years old. Things were different. The job market was different back then. I thought about perhaps being a college professor. That's really kind of sort of, and I always had a fascination with history. I loved it. What I encouraged both of my children, Allie the fourth and Allison, to do was to look at potential jobs, potential careers as they were selecting their educational curriculum in their class, because the job market's tougher than it was when I was a young man coming out of undergraduate school and law school. So my advice to people, and I have lots of young people come in because I've had such a diverse background, who come in and ask me, and I tell them, look at a career that's appealing to you. Find out what kind of educational requirements there are to get ahead in that career, and then I think a business degree is probably more valuable in most instances now than a liberal arts degree. But I love my liberal arts degree, So I think it's just I think young people now are thinking ahead. I think that they are critically aware of the fact that unemployment rate is up and the job market is tight, and employers have kind of the upper hand in hiring the best of the best. And
Sure.
If you're going to get the job you want and pursue the career you want, you've got to be very successful in your education career.
I basically came to college to get a degree in criminal justice, and the reason why I wanted to get into criminal justice because I wanted to make it a career as being in the FBI. And the reason why I wanted to be in the FBI is because all my life I just wanted to help people and stop the foolishness around the world and stuff. And then by being in criminal justice, they'll help me out. I like the freedom to do not just whatever I want to do, because we can't do whatever we want to do, but basically to not have people on our backs all the time about certain things, and it helped me become more responsible in life. I like that it's not like a real big college. It's less people that I have to worry about certain things, and it hasn't really been anything that just made me uncomfortable while being here. It's helped me because I know that in order for me to continue being a student athlete, that I have to have the grades, and now it's something that'll help motivate me to keep doing what I'm doing.
We've got a lot of daytime students as well as we've got a lot of nighttime students, and that's been a great market, if you will, for us. And a lot of those take, our business degrees.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot more people coming to you today that ask for advice about what to do when they're 35, as opposed to just the 18-year-old kid that you thought of giving advice to? I mean, there's so many people that are kind of like you. They're going through not necessarily cycles of reinventing themselves, but you've been in multiple different types of jobs to where a lot of people might consider that reinventing a career.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice do you give to the older groups of people that you meet that need that are going through unemployment right now? What kind of advice do you give them as far as career success goes?
Well, as I said, I mean, it kind of all starts with the job market is tight
Sure.
out there. So, but I'm a firm believer, and I don't say this Pollyanna-ish, that if you're in something you don't like, get out of it, because you're never going to be happy, and moreover, you're not going to make your employer happy.
Right.
An employer can see right through an unhappy employee.
Sure.
I've had many, and I wind up doing them a favor by asking them to leave at some point in time,
Yeah.
because you can just see that their wheels aren't turning, and they're not motivated, and they're not energized by the job. I just really think, and I know it sounds maybe to some of our viewers that it's a little bit naive, but I think that you really have to find in your heart what it is that makes you tick, and then go find a way to get into that. People come to me because, oh gosh, you were in professional baseball for 7 years, or you ran a not-for-profit like MIFA, and isn't that great? And I say, yeah, absolutely, it's great. But I mean, there aren't a lot of executive director of not-for-profit jobs open in this community.
Right.
You need to get at some entry level, and you need to make yourself known by autographing your work with excellence every day. I don't mean that to be a trite phrase, but I think you kind of got to get in at the ground level. If a young person wants to be the general manager of the Memphis Redbirds, they need to go be an intern for the Memphis Redbirds, and they need to be seen by the foundation board, and if this Cardinal deal works, make a name for themselves. But I just think it's hard work. It's starting from the top. It's being willing. No job too small, and just senior management will see those people who love their job and work hard.
So, you talked about being head of MIFA, and the relationships we have with nonprofits and trying to move forward. We have a lot of students that want to be head of a nonprofit someday as well. Why was it important for you, as a leader in this community, to, especially with the work you did with MIFA, but also the work you did with Mr. Hyde in pulling together AutoZone Park and building out downtown? That must have meant a great deal to you, because when you look at downtown and where the park is now and what it's done to revitalize that area, it's amazing to think what kind of blight would possibly be there if you had not done that.
Yeah.
Why is it important for you to work hard towards bettering the city? Because you could have taken a law degree or been in sports and simply box yourself in that way and not branched out to help so many people like you have. So if you will, speak to that, of why it's important to you.
Well, I will say that I'll give Avron Fogelman credit. He just changed my entire thrust of my career. I mean, I got out of law school in 1972. I'm practicing law all day, every day through 1979. Barbara and I are engaged to be married, and she thinks she's marrying a career lawyer. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I get this call from Avron Fogelman and said, I just fired the general manager of the Chicks. I hear you love baseball. Would you like to talk to me? And so it wasn't like I was not enjoying the practice of law and I've got to get out of here. It was like, I love baseball, and this man is highly respected, and he thinks that I could do this job. And so, my career just took an unexpected turn to the left. I mean, big time turn to the left. And so I effectively left my career choice of practicing law. Although I did go back to it for 18 months, I was sort of out of it, and out of the pursuing a lifetime career in the law. And I'm trying to answer your question, Kenneth. Practicing law, you're very much one-on-one with your clients. You're in the courtroom one-on-one with the judge or the jury or whatever. When I got involved with being the general manager of the Chicks, all of a sudden I had an opportunity to talk to everybody in the city. And I had been in the city for a long time, and my dad, and his name was well respected, and so it would open doors. And we were very successful with the Chicks. In humility, I say that. And and I got to meet an awful lot of people, movers and shakers in this community that I would have never had a chance to meet. And then that small interlude, I remember saying when I retired or resigned from the Chicks after 3 years, because we were a Montreal Expos farm club, and if I were going to pursue a big league job, I'd had to move my new family to Canada, and we didn't want to do that. And so I remember in my press conference when I resigned to go back to practicing law, I said, minor league baseball is a job for a young man, and I don't want to wake up one day and be 50 years old and still be the general manager of a minor league team. Well, ironically, it happened. 20 years later, I got back with the Redbirds, and I was 50 years old doing that. But anyway, the job with professional baseball and the job with MIFA, it gave Michael really sensitized me, probably the most meaningful 8 years of my life, because, during the day, I was dealing with the poorest of the poor in the city, and then our board were some of the wealthiest and most connected people. So, it was just, sort of by happenstance that my career deviated from the law, but I certainly have no regrets about it. It's been a wonderful life.
Students who pursue a degree at a liberal arts college is putting him or herself in touch with a tradition that goes back centuries. It's a tried and honored tradition that exposes students to the classics. It exposes students to an education that for centuries has been relied upon to provide graduates with the kind of skills they need to operate effectively in the world. Employers who see a liberal arts college on a resume can identify that student as a student who, through their coursework, is a student who has the skills it takes to succeed. It's a student who can think, it's a student who can write, it's a student who can organize, and perhaps most importantly, it's a student who can succeed. Succeed in the workplace and succeed in life.
Well, getting back to baseball and the Redbirds and being a former athlete, you've probably provided counsel to a lot of athletes because especially in the minor leagues, there are a small percentage of guys who will make it to the show and then make ridiculous amounts of money. But a great majority of the people find out that they're going to have to do something else with their career.
Exactly.
So what advice do you give really students, high school students in the area today? Because every kid with a basketball in the city thinks they're going to be Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. Every kid with playing baseball wants to be Albert Pujols.
Sure.
I mean, we all aspire to be the best of the best of the best, and it's such a small percentage. So what advice do you give our community today, especially with students who need to consider other options?
Yeah. Well, I kind of approach it two different ways, because I want to be absolutely honest with any young person. If they feel that I've got something to share with them, the first thing that I can share with them is my honest feelings about things, right? And they're sitting across the table from a person who was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles and turned down the opportunity to play professionally. I'd already signed a college scholarship, and then again after college I had a chance to play for the Cardinals, and I turned it down to go to law school. So, if I have a small regret in my life, it's that I didn't try.
Sure.
So I never discourage someone from trying to pursue their dream.
Right.
But I urge them to be realistic. If you're 5'6", it's unlikely that you're going to be a power forward in the NBA. Right? If you can only throw the baseball 85 miles an hour, it's unlikely that you're going to be the next Trevor Rosenthal or something for the Cardinals, right? But so you have to be realistic. But I'm a big believer in pursuing your dreams, because otherwise you never know if you could have gotten there. But if you give it a shot, realistic, and you can see the writing on the wall, well, then you have to be courageous enough to move on with your life. Don't sit around and wallow around in mediocrity for a long time. I mean, make the best out of your life, and again, a great education is a great way to do that.
Getting an education to me is important because it opens so many doors. You obtain so many opportunities you never knew you could have. You succeed better in life, and it could provide a better future for you and your family, or just for yourself. Getting a college education will help provide a better future for my son and my family. It'll open more doors for him. My parents, they were really, really proud when they first found out that I was actually going to go to college, and most of all because they were proud that I was really going to follow my dreams.
What advice would you give to colleges and universities today to help better prepare better leaders for tomorrow and better students who can help enter the workforce? and I know that applies, it's a broad question, but if you were talking just to the Memphis area universities, what advice would you give us in that business?
That's an interesting question because I have an answer. I might have just kind of squirreled around and tried to figure out something to say, but I think that colleges and universities would do a tremendous service to their existing students and incoming students if they work closely with employers and found out exactly what they needed.
Absolutely.
And then have curriculum and have programs and have courses of study that prepare you for that. And so the thought of Victory University has talked to AutoZone, and Bill Rhodes tells you exactly what he needs, and he may not make a commitment, but if your students come out of there with a 4.0 and they are prepared to do this kind of work that we desperately need at AutoZone or we need at FedEx, I think that does a tremendous service to these people, other than just taking a general course of study for 130 hours and
Sure.
you come out with a degree and then you just, well, I wonder where I can get a job. You know, maybe you entered college and you could, your advisor at Victory could say, if you take this course of study, if you really don't know, see if you like it, and you're going to have a leg up on everybody else on getting a job in this community at this highly respected employer. So, I think that's a great model for the colleges and universities and the institutions of higher education to work closely with the employers in this community who need help. There's always talk about, we can't find qualified employees.
Sure.
Well, if you guys knew that at Victory and you could train people, and
Absolutely.
then you had a record of 90% of our graduates get hired within 90 days of graduation from Victory, I mean, that word will get around real quickly, right?
Absolutely.
So that would be my advice, strong advice.
And, we talk a lot about an education that cares. I mean, helping people in the community, and an education that works, better preparing them to enter the workforce, but also an education that believes. Talk about your opinion on how Christian faith can help prepare better leaders in our community.
Well, Christian faith has always been extremely important to me. I try not to flaunt that or talk too much about it. My philosophy has always been to try to lead a life where people sort of look through me and see what I'm trying to represent, and that's Jesus Christ. But I think that there are just values of the Christian walk of life that employers are looking for. I don't think many people, it's probably even against the law in the United States to trumpet about your faith, from an employer standpoint or something like that. But I think it's about the qualities of the Christian walk of life. Employers like, I just think that employers kind of see integrity, honesty, commitment, passion, the kinds of things that are commonplace among Christians. I think they're not so commonplace in the workforce and potential employers. They love that kind of character in people.
Absolutely. Well, talk about your own career. Where do you want to see the rest of your own career going? What do you? You're obviously, it's easy to tell just from sitting with you now that you're enjoying a career. You have the perspective of enjoying it much more than you probably did 20 and 30 years ago.
Right.
And that's a good point that we all aspire to get to, is not only loving your job, but being able to take pause and know you're enjoying it as well.
Exactly.
Where do you look for the rest of your own career?
Well, retirement is not in the cards for
Right.
me. I'm 66. The Lord has blessed me with pretty good health. I love what I'm doing here with David Waddell and Waddell and Associates. I don't have to make cold calls. I just introduce this firm to my friends. That's enjoyable to me. I can set my own schedule. I also do a little bit of consulting still. If the Redbirds strike this deal with the Cardinals, I've been told that I might be enlisted to help, sell the suites again, because those 15-year suites are rolling over. That would be tremendously enjoyable for me. I'm very fortunate. I'm married to a wonderful woman, and we don't have too many wants and desires beyond our means right now.
Sure.
So we're not wealthy people, but we're certainly comfortable to be able to live the style of life that we enjoy living. So we enjoy giving back. We're both very involved in our church. My wife is probably over-involved in giving back to this community, but that's been important to us over the time. But I guess to answer your question, Kenneth, I love what I'm doing. I enjoy getting up and coming here every day. I enjoy helping people with their financial life because it takes worries off of their and stress off of them if they feel that they're with somebody they can trust. So I'm very blessed. Some people, they can't wait to retire, and then 2 years later they're bored to death. I don't see that. I wouldn't. I'm not interested in working 60 hours a week anymore.
Sure.
Been there, done that. Don't want to do that anymore. But I love what I'm doing.
Well, looking back, what's your proudest accomplishment that you've had in your career?
Well,
has there been one, or is there just so many that it doesn't?
Well, I don't. Accomplishment in my career, the most important thing in my life is the Lord blessing me with Barbara coming into my life, and then those 2 children. And I hope that I've set a good example as a husband and a father to the children. Professional accomplishment, I mean, the thought of what the corner of 3rd and Union looked like in the mid-1990s, and now to go down there and see AutoZone Park sitting there, it was a team effort, but I remember telling people that one of the proudest moments of my life as a lifelong St. Louis Cardinal fan was to look in the mirror one day and see the only employee of Memphis Redbirds baseball. I mean, Dean Jernigan had the faith to hire me as the president of the team and said, let's go do this. And he was running a Fortune 500 company, so he let me put together the entire staff. And it was an incredible staff. And, from that urban blight there, catty-cornered across from the Peabody Hotel, rose the most beautiful ballpark in all of minor league baseball. And so I think, that probably is, along with as I mentioned earlier, the time at MIFA. I don't know how much I gave to MIFA, but MIFA sure gave an enormous amount to me.
Well, I want to thank you again for being on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You're very kind to ask.
The service that you and your wife have done for the community has been amazing.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I love this city, and I hope that we've been able to give something back.
So if you were inspired by today's story, and you either want to be a college baseball player, or you just want to go get a law degree, or you want to get any other kind of degree and maybe help change our world, then I urge you today to go to aneducationnetworks.com. On behalf of Victory University, thank you for An Education That Works. You'll remember these days forever. That sense of pride and the years of accomplishment in your hands. The friends and relationships that will last a lifetime. Victory University offers a quality Christian education with degree programs that can fit your schedule. An education that cares, an education that believes, and an education that works. This opportunity has never been closer, but you must act now. You're almost there. What is your victory?